Loud, deliberate, the kind of laughter designed to land like a fist. And they aim it at her in the middle of a packed subway car like she is sport, like her cornrows and her scrubs and her 12 hours of saving strangers mean absolutely nothing, like she boarded this train for their entertainment. The entire car goes quiet. Every phone, every conversation, every eye that could meet hers, doesn't. But 3 seats down, the most dangerous man on this train doesn't look away. He simply stands up slowly, the way a man stands when the calculation is already finished and what remains is only the execution. And Minho Park has no idea that the woman he is humiliating right now has been on her feet since 6 a.m. keeping people alive, or that before this train reaches the next stop, he won't have a comeback, a crowd to perform for, or a single exit left that doesn't cost him something. If you have ever sat in a room and waited for one person, just one, to say something and the room stayed silent, stay. Because what happens next in this story is for every single one of us who ever had to swallow it alone. Hit subscribe so you never miss a story and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I want to say hello to every one of you. The hospital doors open and the cold hits her all at once. Vanessa Cole pulls her jacket over her scrubs, shifts the strap of her bag higher on her shoulder and keeps walking. She does not slow down. She has not slowed down in 12 hours and her body no longer knows how to do it on command. It just keeps moving, one foot and then the other, all the way to the subway entrance at the end of the block. She is 26 years old and tonight she feels every single year of it. It was not a bad shift in the way people mean when they say bad. Nobody died who wasn't supposed to. She made the right calls. She caught the thing the attending missed on bed 4 and she did not make a production of it. She just fixed it, documented it, moved on, the way she always does, quietly and completely, in the way of a woman who learned early that excellence without noise is the only kind that doesn't make a target of you. But 12 hours is 12 hours. She descends the station steps, taps her card, finds a seat near the far end of the car. Away from the doors, away from the crowd, away from everything. She sits down. She places her bag on her lap. She clasps her hands on top of it. And for just a moment, before the noise of the world finds her again, she closes her eyes and breathes. She is not fragile. She is tired. There is a difference, though tonight in this moment only she knows it. The doors close. The train moves. And 2 seats away Minho Park is already looking at her. It starts the way it always starts. Not with a shout. Not with something you could point to immediately and name. It starts with a comment pitched just loud enough to reach her, and just quiet enough that she could, if she chose, pretend she didn't hear it. Minho says something about her hair. Daehyun laughs. That laugh is the thing that matters, because the laugh is the signal. It tells Minho that the audience is present, that the performance has an appreciative crowd of at least one, and that there is no reason to stop. So he doesn't stop. The next comment is louder. Something about her scrubs. Something about the way she's sitting. Each one lands a little harder than the last, calibrated with the instinct of someone who has done this before and never once been interrupted. Around them the car makes its decision. It happens without a meeting, without a vote, without anyone saying a single word out loud. A woman near the door shifts her weight and looks at her phone. A man in a gray coat finds something very interesting in the middle distance. 2 teenagers share a set of earphones and stare at the floor. The collective machinery of a public space in the presence of cruelty turns over quietly and arrives at its familiar conclusion. This is not our problem. And with that decision made, Minho gets everything he needs. Not courage. He never had courage. What he has now is permission. And for men like him, permission is the only fuel that was ever required. Vanessa does not move. She does not turn her head. She does not adjust her posture or tighten her jaw in a way anyone across the car could read as a reaction. She sits exactly as she was sitting before it started, hands clasped, bag in her lap, back straight, eyes forward. Here is what that costs. It costs the full weight of every instinct she has. It costs the part of her that knows exactly what she would say if saying it were free, exactly how she would dismantle every word Minho has thrown at her if dismantling it didn't come with consequences. She would be the only one to pay. She has the words. She has always had the words. What she also has is 12 years of watching what happens to women who use them. So she holds herself still the way you hold a wound, with steady, deliberate pressure, not because the pressure doesn't hurt but because releasing it would cost more. This is not weakness. She needs that to be understood. This is the most disciplined thing a person can do, to sit inside an injustice with your dignity fully intact, to refuse to give the people hurting you the satisfaction of watching you break, to hold the line between composure and collapse with nothing but will and the bone-deep knowledge that you have survived every single thing that has come before this. She has survived a lot of things. She will survive this too. What she doesn't know is that she won't have to survive it alone. He was in the car before she boarded. Vanessa didn't notice him. Most people don't, not at first, because Kang Jae-min moves through public spaces the way a current moves through water. Present everywhere, visible nowhere, and only truly felt when it decides to push against you. He is sitting near the middle of the car, one arm resting along the back of the seat beside him, the black tailored suit immaculate against the scratched plastic of the subway interior. The dragon tattoo on his right forearm catches the overhead light briefly when the train takes a curve, just a flash of ink, just a suggestion of what it means, and then disappears again into shadow. He is 33 years old. He has been in rooms that would rearrange the understanding of everyone on this train. He has sat across tables from men who built cities and men who burned them, and he has read all of them the same way, coldly, completely, and without the interference of surprise. The other passengers leave a radius around him without knowing they're doing it. An extra seat on either side. A slight unconscious lean away. The animal instinct of people in the presence of something that their bodies register before their brains catch up. He noted Minho and Daehyun the moment they boarded. He assessed them in approximately 4 seconds. He has been watching Vanessa for longer than that. It is not her beauty that stops him. He has been in the presence of beautiful women his entire adult life, and beauty by itself has never once changed anything he was going to do. It is not her helplessness either. He has seen helplessness weaponized too many times to find it moving. What stops Kang Jae-min is her hands. The way they are clasped in her lap. Knuckles steady. Fingers interlaced with a precision that looks almost deliberate, like a structure she built quickly when she needed something to hold onto, and built it well, and has been maintaining it with quiet determination ever since. He knows that grip. He has worn it himself, in rooms where the wrong expression would have cost him everything, in moments where the only leverage he had left was the absolute refusal to let the other side see him flinch. He learned to hold himself still the same way she is holding herself still right now, not because the stillness was comfortable, but because it was the only form of power available, and he was not going to surrender the only thing he had. He recognizes what she is doing. More than that, he recognizes why. Because she is alone in this car the same way he was alone in those rooms. Surrounded by people and completely, entirely without backup. Jaemin has built his entire life on one principle. You pay your debts and you protect what deserves protecting. He watches Minho open his mouth again. And something in Kang Jae-min goes very, very quiet. They are not monsters. That is the thing that needs to be said, because monsters would almost be easier. Monsters have a shape, a logic, a reason you can point to and explain. Minho Park and Daehyun Choi are not monsters. They are 24 years old. They work ordinary jobs and go home to ordinary apartments and have mothers who would be genuinely shocked to see them right now. What they are is unchecked. That is the whole story. That is all of it. Minho has been doing this his entire life. Small cruelties delivered to people he calculates cannot or will not push back. And not once in all those years, in all those moments, has a single person ever made him stop. Not a teacher. Not a stranger. Not a friend. The world has communicated to him, clearly and consistently, that there are people whose dignity is negotiable, and that the negotiation will always go in his favor. Daehyun has simply never had a reason to disagree. He follows. He laughs. He makes Minho feel witnessed, which makes Minho feel powerful, which makes Daehyun feel safe by proximity. It is a small, self-sustaining system of cruelty that has operated without interruption or consequence for years. It has never once encountered Kang Jae-min. It is about to. The movement is so quiet that the nearest passenger doesn't register it immediately. Jaemin doesn't push off the seat or adjust his jacket or do any of the things a person does when they are preparing themselves for a confrontation. He simply stands. Clean and complete, the way a door opens. One moment seated, the next entirely upright, and the transition between the two so controlled that it carries its own particular weight. He moves down the car without hurrying. This is important. The lack of urgency is not indifference. It is the most precise signal he could send. A man who rushes is a man responding to someone else's tempo. Jaemin has not moved at someone else's tempo since he was 19 years old. He reaches Vanessa's row. He does not stand over her. He does not position himself between her and the bullies like a wall being erected. He simply turns, lowers himself into the empty seat directly beside her, and sits, close enough that his presence is unambiguous, far enough that she has her full space. Then he looks at Minho. Not with anger. Anger is an emotion, and emotions are information you hand to your opponent. He looks at Minho the way he looks at a calculation, steady, complete, entirely without heat. And in a voice so low that the entire car has to stop breathing to catch it, he says one sentence. The narrator is not going to give it to you yet. but you can see it land in Minho's face like a stone dropped into still water. Minho's laugh dies before it fully forms. It gets halfway out of his throat. The reflex is still there, the muscle memory of a man who has always been able to laugh things off, and then it simply stops. Like a light someone switched off at the source. He looks at Jaemin. Jaemin looks back. And here is what Minho Park finds in that look. Nothing. No anger to mirror back at him, no outrage to deflect, no performance to match or undercut. Just a man sitting with complete stillness in his own authority, delivering a sentence that has already finished its work before the sound has fully faded from the air. What Jaemin said quietly was this. You should think very carefully about the next thing you decide to do. 7 words. No raised voice. No hand moved. No name given and no threat elaborated. Just 7 words from a man whose entire posture communicated, with perfect clarity, that he was not the beginning of this conversation. He was the end of it. Daehyun looks at Minho and finds nothing useful there. Minho's face has done something it has perhaps never done in a public space. It has gone uncertain. The confidence that was there 30 seconds ago, the loose comfortable confidence of a man who has always had the room, is simply gone. And in its place is something smaller and much more honest. The car is silent. But it is a completely different silence now. Before, the silence was the sound of a crowd choosing not to get involved. It was permission wearing the face of neutrality. It was every passenger deciding that the cost of speaking was higher than the cost of watching. This silence is different. This silence is the sound of a room realizing it read the situation wrong, that what felt like the safest place to stand was directly in the path of something it had not accounted for. Vanessa has not moved. But for the first time since the doors closed, her hands loosen slightly in her lap. Just slightly. Just enough. Minho stands up at the next stop. He doesn't announce it. He doesn't make a production of leaving the way he made a production of everything else tonight. He simply gets up, and Daehyun gets up behind him, and they move to the doors and step off onto a platform that is 2 stops before either of them needed to be. The doors close. The train moves. And the car exhales. Not dramatically. Not with applause or commentary or any of the things that happen in the version of this story people tell themselves when they imagine being brave. Just a quiet, collective release of held breath. The sound of a space returning to itself after something passed through it that didn't belong. Jaemin does not speak to Vanessa. He does not turn to check on her or offer an explanation or wait for her to acknowledge what just happened. He simply settles back into his seat with the same stillness he's carried the entire ride, his arm resting along the back of the seat, his eyes returning to the middle distance. He is not waiting for her gratitude. He did not do it for her gratitude. He rides until her stop, and she will only realize later, turning it over in the quiet of her apartment, that he must have known which stop was hers, because he stood exactly when she stood, and he watched from inside the car as she stepped through the doors and onto the platform and walked toward the exit without looking back. She doesn't know his name. She will not know it. She will spend several days trying to find the edges of what happened, trying to build a clean story around it that accounts for everything, and she will find that she can't quite do it. The man in the black suit will remain a shape without a label, a fact without a category, something that happened to her on a Tuesday night that she doesn't have the right language for yet. But she will remember the moment his weight settled into the seat beside her. The way the air changed. The way 12 hours of exhaustion and a car full of silence and a voice aimed at her like a weapon. The way all of it became suddenly, quietly manageable, not because the threat disappeared, but because she was no longer carrying it alone. She will remember that. She will carry it the way you carry the things that quietly rebuild you. Not loudly, not on display, but in the straightening of your posture on the next ride home, in the steadiness of your hands the next time the world decides to test you, in the small but irreversible knowledge that you were worth it. That someone saw exactly what was being done to you and decided, without being asked, that it was going to stop. Somewhere in the city, in a world Vanessa Cole will never see, Kang Jae-min makes 2 phone calls before he reaches his own stop. His voice is the same in both, unhurried, precise, carrying the particular authority of a man who does not need volume to be heard. By the following week, Minho Park will find that certain doors he was accustomed to walking through have quietly stopped opening for him. Nothing dramatic. Nothing he can trace. Just the slow, accumulating realization that the city has rearranged itself slightly, that something that was available to him no longer is, and that no one he asked seems to know exactly why. He will never connect it to a Tuesday night on a subway car. He will never know the name of the man in the black suit. But he will not do it again. The people who give the most are often the ones the world forgets to protect. But dignity carried quietly is never invisible to everyone, and sometimes, The one person who truly sees you is the one person the world cannot ignore. Cruelty survives on silence. It only takes one voice to end it. Be the person who sits down.